Hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. So I have not filmed in about a week, so I'm feeling like really giddy and excited today. I don't know, I just love sitting down and talking to you guys, even though it's kind of me just sitting down in front of my desk and talking to a camera, but you're here with me in spirit. Anyways, I'm super excited for today's video because I actually love drugstore makeup, and it might not seem like that if you look at my channel because I haven't done like a dedicated drugstore video since sometime last year. And yes, generally I do tend to focus on more like high-end brands or higher end releases. That's just kind of what I gravitate towards, but I do genuinely love a lot of drugstore products. I don't deliberately go seeking out drugstore stuff. I don't go to the drugstore with the intention of, hey, I need to get some drugstore things for my channel. But basically, I wanted to make a full synthesized video of all my absolute favorites from the drugstore that I think genuinely do perform like high-end products. These are the things I think transcend the amount that you pay for them. They're not just good for the $5 price tag, they're good regardless of how much they cost. And for those of you who are balling on a budget, I wanted to just put together a list of all my favorite things that I think are awesome in terms of affordability, but just deliver really, really well in quality. And regardless of how much you want to spend on makeup, I think you deserve the best products ever. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Full details of this look should already be on Instagram if I'm consistent, which I haven't been lately. I'm so sorry. I believe this intro is quite long enough, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so I'm just going to start off with eyeshadow palettes because this is my channel. We're all eyeshadow hoes. And I forgot to mention, but everything in this video should be under $20. There's kind of like a blurred line of what really qualifies as drugstore, especially because NYX is just like getting right up there with the prices. But for me, drugstore / affordable makeup is a single product that's $20 or under, and that includes eyeshadow palettes. I personally think the best affordable eyeshadows that money can buy are from Colourpop. Their eyeshadows have always been good, but around like the end of last year and from then until now, I've just kind of fallen back in love with Colourpop palettes. So of course they have their classic 12 pan palettes. These are, I think, $16 to $18 each, depending on if they have a mirror or not. And I do have 4 of these 12 pan palettes currently, but I picked out my 2 favorites. Good Sport was my love affair of autumn 2018, and I still love this one, even though it is a bit grungier than the season would call for right now. I think it's absolutely stunning. So this, I think, is actually a really good dupe for the palette I'm wearing on my eyes right now. Today I'm wearing the Sosu Kaylee MUA Urban Bible palette, and I think this has really beautiful... You guys voted on me to pick this one up, so I also recently bought the Sweet Talk pressed powder palette. And obviously this one is a bit more of a neutral color scheme, but I mean, there's like freaking pressed glitters in here, so I had to. Mattes are very pigmented. They can be a little bit more on the powdery side, but they still are very easy to blend, and it's hard to just like go overboard with them. So I think they're easy to build up, easy to blend out. Even though they are powdery, they have a lot of pigmentation, so it works out. I love the duochrome shades that they do as well. I think they just do a really good job with coming up with these amazing colors that just look really flattering on the eyes. I'm still testing this one out, so I will be sharing a full review of the Sweet Talk palette at the end of the month. Even better than them would be their 9-pan palettes. Started coming out with these 9-pan palettes in plastic packaging. I have the It's My Pleasure and the Just My Luck palette. My personal favorite one is the purple, but the green is awesome as well. I just used this one in a Get Ready With Me. I'm pretty sure I was wearing the same exact shirt in that video. These, in my opinion, are even better quality than the Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes, and they're just beautiful, and I love them so much, and they're $12. Even though they do release a crap ton of products, I do feel like they genuinely do release good quality products every time, and I've only had a few misses from them. So Colourpop is definitely a safe bet if you want to go for some really good products, but their eyeshadows are... This year I've also fallen in love with Coastal Scents eyeshadows. This is their Creative Me eyeshadow palette, but they do have a bunch of other neutral palettes. I think their mattes are awesome. I'm not a huge fan of their shimmers, honestly. I do prefer Colourpop shimmers, but their mattes here, wow. It's really hard to find good, bright, colorful matte shadows at the drugstore, but I think eyeshadow brands in general are just doing better formulas now. And where you might have had like 2 good options at the drugstore a couple years ago, now you have like 100. So I think this is awesome. I love their other eyeshadows as well. I've got to give an honorable mention to e.l.f. shadows. I really, really want to try their J Kissa palette, but I just placed an order from e.l.f., a bunch of new releases, and 2 of the things I really want to get, their Putty Poreless Primer, which is always out of stock. Thank you for that, Jeffrey. And the J Kissa palette, which just deserves to have all her collections ever sold out completely. Can't get my hands on them. them. But something that's always in stock with them is their matte for matte palettes, and these are one of the best things that they offer. I have the Jewel Pop. This is the only one I still own, but I think the colors in here are beautiful. I don't love their shimmer formula as much. I think they definitely have a strong suit in their matte shadows, but again, it's really hard to formulate good mattes, especially good colorful mattes, and I think e.l.f. does a really great job. These do take a bit of building, so you do have to have a little bit more patience with them. They're not quite as highly pigmented as Colourpop. e.l.f. was the first ever makeup brand I purchased from, so they have a very soft spot in my heart. I am pretty picky when it comes to complexion products. I generally do prefer to use higher end foundations and concealers just because I find that that's what works for me more often. So I have two different shelves of foundation. Up here I keep my drugstore ones, but then at eye level I keep my high-end ones. I do have 3 drugstore foundations that I feel like actually perform just as good as any high-end one. And I'm going to start with an offering to the dewy gods. This is the Flower Beauty Light Illusion foundation. I hated this the first time I tried it out just because I was kind of in my everything needs to be completely matte and powdered down on my face phase. I'm in the shade L2. They do have a pretty crappy shade range. I believe they did expand, so don't quote me on that, but there's SPF 18 in here, and it's one of the few dewy foundations that I feel like doesn't break up throughout the day. So even though it is definitely very luminous and does have a lot of shine to it, it stays in place. While I do look pretty oily at the end of the day, not even gonna sugarcoat it, you do look very dewy by the end of the day. It doesn't break up into clumps or anything like I feel like a lot of other more luminous foundations do. And it is so light on the skin. I wear this one, I feel like I'm not even wearing foundations. I love this one, and the bottle looks very high-end and fancy, so I think it's really good quality for the price. Target stocks a few really cool indie brands, and they started stocking the Haley's Reset Liquid Matte Foundation sometime last year. But the Reset Liquid Matte Foundation, it has a really good shade range. I believe it's like 35 shades or 30 shades. And this I would say is pretty much a perfect dupe of the Too Faced Peach Perfect Foundation, but without the peach scent. It is a very soft matte foundation, so if you want something that's going to last very well throughout the day, but if you have like kind of drier to normal skin like I do, and you don't want something that's going to be like super Fenty level matte. It is genuinely one of the most long-wearing foundations I have, but it also doesn't make my face look dead, which I love. So it's matte, but not completely flat and not completely just death-inducing. Sleek and very travel-friendly bottle, so I like taking this one with me when I go traveling, and this is awesome. Finally, my #1 favorite foundation from the drugstore would have to be the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation. It claims to be a 24-hour foundation. Never gonna test that because I respect my skin. Okay. Kind of similar to the Haley's one, I feel like it's a very nice soft matte, so it is mattifying, but it feels really light. If I have dry patches, this one kind of glides on top of them instead of clinging to them or emphasizing them. It is very full coverage. I would say this is truly a full coverage foundation, and you only need like 1 pump or so to get to maximum coverage. Also, it's HD, so it looks really good on camera. It's beautiful. Kind of like foundation, my concealer favorites from the drugstore are far and few, but I do have 2 favorites I want to share with you guys, and these are the counterparts to the foundations I just mentioned. So the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Concealer. It's kind of interesting because this is kind of what I define as a full coverage dewy concealer. You don't really see that very often. You normally see full coverage matte, but this one really does pack a nice amount of coverage to it. It blends super easily because it has more emollient ingredients, and it stays in place really well throughout the day, but it doesn't make your skin look flat. It definitely does require some setting down, but I would say this is kind of a better version of the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. It's like that one, but less creasy. And then in slightly less beautiful packaging, I have the Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer. Tati raved about this one. This is super full coverage, but it's very easy to blend out. One of my main problems with like Tarte Shape Tape is that it is insanely full coverage, but it can be very hard to blend out. I love this one a lot, especially with the Catrice foundation. But next up, I wanted to share with you guys some really good drugstore highlighters. I could have mentioned like 10 different highlighters in this category, but I didn't want the video to be completely highlighters. These I feel like are sometimes even better than high-end. My #1 is forever and always the Colourpop Super Shock Cheek in the shade Flexitarian. This is stunning if you can't tell how crazy reflective this is just based on how it looks in the pan. It's one of the most blinding, intense highlighters I've ever put on my face, and this is one of Colourpop's like top selling products on their entire website. You do have to close them very tightly because they can dry out. They are kind of cream to powder texture, so they do have this really nice melty quality to the face. And I love this one, especially after like 1 to 2 hours of wear time. After my makeup starts to settle in, this just becomes glazed and beautiful and blinding. It just settles into my natural face. It's also a very neutral color, so it just never fails me depending on what kind of makeup look I'm wearing. I can always put this one on and know it's gonna look good Also in the realm of incredibly stupidly blinding would be the Sleek Makeup Solstice highlighting palettes. So this was a recommendation from Jaclyn Hill, and truthfully, she never steers me wrong, but I was genuinely shocked when I tried this one just because
it's so good.
I'm just gonna swatch the kind of purple one, and I think I'm gonna put a little bit on my cheekbone as well. I'm wearing the Amrezy highlighter from Anastasia, but I don't know about you, but I think that speaks for itself. Again, I feel like they don't really emphasize a ton of texture, especially if you go in with a bit of setting spray on top. These just kind of melt into the skin. They're one of the few like really icy highlighters that I feel like doesn't look too stark on the face. And something about the way that these just catch the light, these just like, they hit different. However, if you're not wanting something incredibly blinding, I totally get that. On a normal daily basis, I sometimes want to go for a bit of a more subtle highlight or just something that's going to look a bit more natural. But possibly one of my favorite highlighters in the whole world would be the Essence Pure Nude highlighter. This is $5. They have a few different shades. My favorite is Be My Highlight, but they do have some colorful ones. But I feel like for a very like subtle highlighter like this one, you wouldn't necessarily want a colorful subtle highlight. And on first watch, it's pretty tame, but as you build it up, especially after like 2 to 3 coats of this one, it's just this very nice pearly reflective highlighter. It can be blinding, but it's not overpowering. It just looks like you drink a lot of water and you are just aggressively hydrated. I feel like it's generally pretty hard to F up a good blush. I feel like Drugstore generally has blushes that are just as good, if not better, than some high-end blushes. One of my recent favorites has been the Lottie London Blush Crush. This is a UK-based brand, but they are in Ulta. They're one of the most underrated brands at the drugstore. I just love a lot of their products. This is the shade Zac. I love it. It's a very nice like subtle berry shade. I've used one in a couple different Get Ready With Me's. These are a really nice soft kind of like melty powder blush. Just the right amount of pigmentation and they blend out really easily. So in my last Get Ready With Me, I think I put a little bit too much on, but it still blended out. So I love this one. I will probably never stop harping about the Burt's Bees Toasted Cinnamon Blush. This, it's basically a bronzer, so if I want to, I can use it as a bronzer. I love this one, just kind of dust it up into the very backs of my cheekbones. It's this nice amount of warmth to the face. It looks very sun-kissed and natural, but it has this kind of reddish hue, so it looks blushy and bronzy at the same time. It's 100% all natural, and some of these kind of like natural crunchy granola type brands, I'm just like, is it gonna be good though? But this is so good. If you're wanting just inexpensive on another level, Shop Miss A exists for you. I've done so many different videos reviewing their stuff, so I will link some of those in the cards, but I love these. Possibly my favorite thing that they offer on their website besides their Wonder Blenders. These are the Hush Cream Sheer Blushes, and I won't talk too much about them just because I did talk for a very long time about these in the recent cream products video, but these are awesome. Do have powder versions as well, which I think are just as awesome. Soft, lightly dewy, but very nicely pigmented, and they blend super easily. They're just one of the best formulas. For $1 each, you really can't go wrong. I have such a deep love for the Essence Satin Touch blushes. They have 2 different shades as far as I know. 20 Satin Love is my personal favorite, but they do have a satin coral shade as well. These are beautiful because they are kind of a matte blush, but they're not completely matte. They are Satin, as the name would imply. They look like they're going to be very light in pigmentation, and they kind of are, but they build really easily. It's very hard to apply too much with these ones. They're one of the softest, creamiest powder blushes. They're so easy to blend, and they're $3 each. Alright, for bronzers, you really cannot beat the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I struggle so much saying Physicians, which is ironic because I'm going to be doctor. I have the light bronzer. They do have a few different shades. It has a potent smell, which you can decide whether or not you want to deal with that. This is what I describe as a very creamy powder. It's very soft to the touch, buttery. I'm just understanding these names now.
I am so powerful. My mind.
This is so pleasant to apply on the face. It's one of the best bronzers, and everyone raves about this one for a reason, so I could not recommend this enough. I would recommend getting this on Amazon because it's like $6 or $7 there, but in drugstores it's like 13 bucks, so save some money, baby. I also love this cream bronzer from Wet n Wild. This is the Call Me Maple Mega Glow Contour Stick. It's a very nice warm-toned cream bronzer. I don't use it as a contour ever. It's a really good, soft, blendable formula, very pigmented, and it lasts really well throughout the day. Also talked about this one in the cream video, but this is the Jordana Sculpt and Glow Creamy Contour Stick, and this is what kind of inspired this video, just because I feel like this is one of those drugstore products that it's not just like good for $6, it's genuinely just really good. You could maybe put this into some nicer packaging and slip it into a high-end makeup counter and I probably wouldn't tell the difference. So that's kind of what the focus of this video is, just stuff that's genuinely actually good quality and not just like good for the price tag. I forgot to include these earlier in the complexion products area, but I have some powders I want to recommend. I adore the Makeup Revolution Luxury Baking Powder in the shade Lace. The packaging is kind of ass to a point where I'm not going to open it just because powder will fly out everywhere. It's a very finely milled powder. I love using this one for baking. That's a nice brightening effect to the under eyes. And it's light enough to a point where I feel like I can bake with this one and not worry about looking super crepey at the end of the day. Also really good for brightening up the under eyes would be the Essence Brighten Up Banana Powder. This is a pressed banana powder, kind of similar to the KKW Beauty one, but with a lot more product in here. I think it's such a good drugstore dupe that I would think this was the high-end one. Again, with Essence, price kind of varies depending on your location. I got this one for I think $5. They are not technically makeup, but I did want to mention the AOA Studio blending sponges because I will never buy another beauty blender ever again. Not only because beauty blenders just out here being stupid on social media, but because these are $1 each, and I could not ever fathom spending $20 on a single piece of foam. These are my favorite blending sponge ever. I love these even more than the Real Techniques one. I love these more than the Eco Tools one. These are just the best. Generally, I like going for a more illuminating setting spray, so my favorite is the Catrice Prime and Fine Dewy Glow Fixing Spray. This is the balm.com.co.uk. It's just a nice, soft kind of like shh, and I love it. And I think Catrice just does some of the best complexion products at the drugstore. I actually don't even keep this one on the shelf. I keep it right here on the front of my vanity, so I have it just to finish off my face at the end of the makeup session. So I have to mention my true love and husband. This is the Trader Joe's Rosewater Facial Toner, and I realized I haven't talked about this one in a while, which is kind of a crime because I think I talked about this one in almost every video last year. A toner, but I use it as a dewy setting spray and a toner. It's good for skincare. It's the finest mist known to mankind, and it's $5. So Trader Joe's just really kills it with their skincare stuff. It's only a matter of time before they start coming out with bomb makeup, so get on that, Joe. Eye bases, I don't have a ton of favorites, but I did want to mention the Colourpop No Filler Concealers because I don't like these as actual concealers, but as eye bases, yes.
Yes.
I got this completely from Raw Beauty Christie, but she uses these as her eyeshadow primer, and these are awesome. They're $6 each. They're really, really good. They have this very nice amount of like grippiness to them. I feel like they really make your shadows stick to your lid, but they still are easy to blend on top of. The Essence Make Me Brow Gel Mascara is the best brow gel ever from the drugstore. It's pretty much the same thing as the Benefit Gimme Brow, but like better. My favorite mascara ever from the drugstore is the Essence Lash Princess. I'm wearing it today on my eyes, even though you can't see it because I'm wearing lashes. My personal favorite is the Sculpted Volume, but I know Tarte really likes the collab mascaras. I feel like Essence makes really, really good mascaras from the drugstore, and this is the best. So I've repurchased this 4 times. Wallets don't lie. And then for lips, I think Colourpop just reigns supreme. I know they're not technically drugstore, but you know what?
That's my opinion!
I'm wearing one of their Ultra Mattes today in the shade Softy. I can actually tolerate their Ultra Matte lips. Love their Ultra Satins. I love their Ultra Mattes. I love their Ultra Blotted lip in the shade Zuma. It's my favorite like no makeup day lip. But for $6.50 each, these lipsticks are just so good, and they're pretty much the only like drugstore affordable lipstick I use. And finally, Colourpop lip liners, the lip pencils. These are pretty much the exact same formula as the Kylie Cosmetics lip liners. I think they're the same thing. I know a lot of people have been saying that the Kylie matte liquid lipsticks are the same as Colourpop. I think Kylie's matte liquid lipsticks are a little bit better than Colourpop's, but the lip liners, I genuinely cannot tell a difference. These are very, very creamy and soft lip liners, so if you hate lip liners that kind of skip or are a bit more stiff, you're gonna love these. They're very creamy, they're very glidey, and I think they're just the best. Alright guys, so that is it with my extensive list of drugstore favorites. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed and follow me down below on Instagram to see makeup looks like this posted pretty regularly. And if you made it to the very end of this video, you get the bonus meme. I just want you to know I love you so much. Seriously. Bye.
Whoa, that's bananas.